and I jumped in as sort of a middleman, as a middle person, someone that could help project managers be better at what they do, to help educate them, to help find jobs, to help them commune with each other. And there were these gaps in this business in North America, especially. And I just simply jumped in as an entrepreneur and started building. I built a conference business so that they could commune. I built a magazine so that they could read and write. I shared their commentary.
Welcome to The Change Lead, the podcast providing leaders with the insight needed to get things done in a rapidly changing and complex world. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. Connect with our community of like-minded leaders on our website, thechangelead.com. Welcome to The Change Lead with your host, Babatope Ipinyomi.
Today's guest is David Barrett. David Barrett is a professional speaker, regular blogger, podcast host, author, and education advisor. He is the author, co-author, or compiler of 7 books. Now, early in 2002, through his blog, David asked the question, can you speak CxO language? So, can you speak CxO language? Are you able to communicate succinctly with the C-suite? In this episode, David and I will have a conversation about speaking the CxO language. So hi, David. Really good, and thanks for joining me today. Looking forward to today's conversation, and as always, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Babs. Nice to be here. I assume from previous conversations I can call you Babs.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I think anybody that knows me well always goes with the name Babs. So yes, thank you. So to get started, I'd like to zoom out actually to discuss a bit about what you do, the motivations for what you do. And I think that would take us nicely into today's topic about speaking the CxO language. So and I know I was looking at your website, Project Bytes, and you do have a phrase there in your bio that says, educating and inspiring project managers. And I think that's a brilliant phrase. And
Thank you.
I think to get started, I would like to, why do you do that? What motivates you to educate and inspire project managers, change practitioners?
Well, good place to start. Probably because I'm not a project manager and never was one. It's been about 35 years since I got into this business, and I jumped in when it was about to explode, when IT was just sort of waking up and realizing that their projects were actually projects, and that maybe this discipline called project management could help them. I watched as everyone was sort of flailing around and trying to get all this work done, and it wasn't working. And I jumped in as sort of a middleman, as a middle person, someone that could help project managers be better at what they do, to help educate them, to help find jobs, to help them commune with each other. And there were these gaps in this business in North America, especially. And I just simply jumped in as an entrepreneur and started building. I built a conference business so that they could commune. I built a magazine so that they could read and write. I shared their commentary. I built a education program and ran it through 9 universities across Canada. I'm sitting in their office in Toronto right now, one of those universities. So it's still an 18-day program. We've graduated 13,000 people from this master's certificate. And I had a recruiting business. It just, the list goes on. And now Project Bytes, all in aid of helping project managers be better at what they do, all in aid of inspiring project managers to be better and educating them, giving them a better future and more opportunities as well. So it's been kind of my bent all along, building stuff that'll help others to be better at what they do.
I think that's really brilliant, and I think I like the way you combine both the education and inspiration. From what you're saying, you've got a lot of passion here, and the entrepreneurial mindset is actually quite good. You sit perfectly in the middle of project managers and the CxO, so you're probably perfect for today's topic, speaking the CxO language, actually. Mm-hmm. So if we get into the topic, speaking the CxO language, and I know you've written about this already, and one thing that's come out from your writing on this is that it's a challenge. Change practitioners struggle to speak the CxO, they struggle to communicate succinctly with the C-suite. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why are change practitioners struggling with this?
Well, I mean, I think there are a number of reasons. I think, first of all, we as practitioners, we don't understand the mindset of the senior executive team, the board of directors, the senior management team. We are good at what we do, getting things done on time, on scope, on budget, now attached to the business, and all that cool stuff. That's what we do. But there has been this moat, this body of water between us and them that I've tried to shrink in my time. I've tried to build that bridge, but it's a big span, and they don't make bridges that big. So we're having to build it into. We're trying to find chunks of land that are a little closer, so that maybe the bridge doesn't have to be so long and broad, that will connect those of us that do the work with those of them that think about the work, that strategically create the work. They just don't think alike. And the second thing is, Babs, that we know too much. The problem in the communication side is, even if I knew your mindset, even if I understood the mindset of the senior executive team, which I suggest we still don't, as I said, but even if that were not the case, we know too much. And here's the big problem. We know so much that we have trouble putting it into a framework that is digestible by the audience. I've always said project managers are terrible communicators. Why? Because we know we have this body of knowledge around this project. Forget the body of knowledge as we know it from a project management association or institution out there. The body of knowledge being everything we know about this project, from the scope and the budget to the quality to all this cool stuff, this data. So we know it's this large, and we have very little conception or ability to take it and put it into smaller chunks for the right audience. I love to say our job as great communicators is to deliver the right message at the right time, in the right format, to the right people. And those pieces, if you can figure that out, you're going to be brilliant. Put yourself in the audience's shoes. I can talk. Yeah, I'm jumping ahead, but I think the problem to your question is that we know too much, and we have trouble dicing and slicing it to the right audience. We just spew. Hey, how's the project going? And 2 hours later, we're still 2 hours later, we're still talking. Kind of like me on this question right now. I'm still talking. Shut up, David. But we just spew it because we have no ability to frame it to the right piece.
Yeah,
and secondly,
secondly,
we don't get that mindset. If we understood them, then the solution's easy. Put yourself in those shoes, understand what their problems are, and deliver to the problem. But we can't do that. No one's taught us how to do that.
That's interesting. So you're saying the mindset is different, and the fact that project managers know too much. I think it's interesting that you say project managers know too much, because you wouldn't naturally think that knowing too much would be a problem, right? Like, if you've got lots of knowledge, that's a good thing, right? But when you really think about it, what you're saying makes perfect sense. Look at the internet. There's so much information, so much data out there on the internet. If you don't know what you're looking for, you just get lost, you get misled, right? So it's sort of similar to that. So if we look at the mindset, so you talked to the mindset, that the mindset is different. The mindset of a C-suite, somebody who speaks the CxO language, somebody on the leadership, on a board leadership position, is different from the mindset of someone who's probably in the weeds, just getting things done. What is the mindset of the C-suite? What are their challenges? What are they thinking? In connection with that, what is the CxO language?
The CxO language is all about. So first of all, the discussion. The language is the vehicle to discuss. But what's the discussion about? The discussion. Sorry about these. All of a sudden, we've got sirens all over the place. I hope you don't mind. But we've got a discussion going on about the future of this organization, about our plans for 3, 5, and 10 years going forward. Good, strong organizations. Weak organizations can only think ahead 1 year. They only care about the next 4 quarters of returns. But good, strong organizations want to think and talk about the future and how we're going to get there. So when the discussion is not only about our future and how we're going to get there, what it's going to look like, but our discussion is about the return on our investors' investment, our major stakeholders' investments. So we've got a publicly traded company, and so we've got the share price that's publicly traded out there. Or if we're a privately controlled company, we've got the bottom line, and that may be, don't worry about it, just do your thing. Or yes, I demand, a 10% return on my investment. So we've got the return on investment, we've got our future stability, and then we've got all the other details like our competitors and what's going on in the marketplace. The project work we do is it's nowhere in their vision at all. That is just the vehicle that we're going to use. That is just the what we're going to do to get the work done. But David, what's the work? The work ideally comes from strategy. So what's the strategy? What's the plan? Well, the plan is that we're going to buy our competitor. We're going to move to a new country. We're going to increase the product line threefold. We're going to double our investment in this, and we're going to increase our bottom line, decrease our bottom line, close up the business. Whatever the plan is, produces project work. The C-suite says, I don't care how you do it, just do it. No, it's a little more gentle than that. But I don't want to review the project plan. I don't want to be involved in decisions about who's doing what, where, when, and why. I do want to be informed how we are doing, and I want to be able to communicate to our stakeholders, to our sponsors, to whoever else, as the senior lead in this organization, where we're at in the stuff that we've promised. That's what I care about. How are we doing? Don't get into the detail. Just you do the work. How are we doing in relation to what we as an organization had planned to do? What was the plan? If I could, a quick example. I'm staring out here at the business district of Toronto, Canada, and I'm staring at a bank that one day that there's the tower right there, and there was a day where they decided they were going to acquire a competitor, a competing bank. It was actually a trust company, and there were really interesting reasons why, but it was all strategic. And it had everything to do with the 5 to 8 year vision of this bank. And this bank is already 130 years old. So it's not like we're coming and going here. So good long-term view. And that decision to acquire produced a program team 3 floors larger in one of these towers here. And that 3 floors was the project program, was the program team. And within those floors, the project teams were all there. And those project teams, that was the bricks and mortar, and that was marketing, and that was technology, huge group. And they were the project leads for all of these sections that would help merge these 2 very large organizations together. It was brilliant. 3 floors producing, not doing the work. The technology was happening down the road in another country, in another city. The bricks and mortar were happening down the street. They were just the project leads. And it was brilliant to watch. But the senior executive team at the top of the tower, 60, 70 floors up, I'm sure they popped in, but their connection to that 3 floors was probably 3, 4, or 5 key people who gave them the update every week and said, how are we doing? And those reports were not 2 hours long, I'm sure. They were probably 20 minutes long, because not only were we concerned about that acquisition and the work that was going to happen and our promises, but we also had to run the bank. And that C-suite, that question that you asked probably 40 minutes ago, was what are they thinking? Well, a part of their thought is this acquisition, how are we doing? But it's going to take 3 years for the merger to happen. And they're now thinking about the next acquisition of something other unrelated. And now they're worrying about the return on investment on the bank for the shareholders. And now they're worrying about a new competitor. They're worrying about a product line. They've got all these worries. It's a whole different mindset.
Yeah, interesting. So right. I like the example you used there, actually, because the mindset of the people in the C-suite is completely different from the people of the project managers, the people working on the projects. But the irony is, from that example, is actually the projects are designed to move the metrics that the C-suite are concerned about, but there is still this disconnect between the fact that what you're doing is actually move the metrics, but you do need to be able to understand the metrics, understand the mindset of the C-suite, so you can do that translation as a change practitioner to be able to communicate effectively with the C-suite. So I think that's brilliant. I think it's a very good example.
You got to be able to communicate effectively with that C-suite. And so, yes, they would talk to 4 people once a week for 20 minutes. But those 4 people were trained well enough to understand what they're going to deliver every Monday morning for those 20 minutes. Making this up as I go. But they knew that these people didn't want to hear about the details. They didn't want to hear about the any of this, what's going on those 3 floors. We're good to go. Everything's in line, under control. Let's go for coffee. Thank you. And unbelievable. We've got problems. We are backlogged on the technology translation, and we've got some problems. Right now, we are tracking to where we're about 2 to 3 months behind. So the lights are on. Want you to be aware. I will keep you up to date. Don't need your help. Don't need your involvement. Under control, but it's getting scary. Okay, that's what the C-suite wanted to hear. And they wanted to hear the bad news. And these guys and gals knew it. And they wanted to know how far off we were. They got it. And they also wanted to know at what risk level we were at on not making things happen when we promised. And the lights were going on, and they heard, stay tuned. Give me a couple of weeks, and I'll give you the bad news a little bit later, because I'm not quite sure yet. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty, and we're not going to sugarcoat this.
I think every change practitioner needs to be able to learn to do that, because you do get real good buy-in, you get good engagement, you're a lot more effective in what you do. When you do need the C-suite to step in, they're prepared, they're ready. You've given them the preemptive information. So if we follow on from that, what can project managers, what can change practitioners do then to get better at this? If they're not already good at this, how can we learn to get better, to improve?
Funny, I just had a meeting before with this recording with a fellow that I work with at one of these universities, at this university office that I'm sitting at. And we've just completed a 3-day course that I designed called Leading Beyond Projects. And my thought was, let's give our senior project people out there a taste of what's on the other side as leaders, as potential leaders, so they can make the jump in career from project management leadership to organizational leadership. Babs, I believe, and I've always said, project managers make great leaders. We just need to be taught how to be leaders. Okay, let's leave that one alone. The reason I mentioned is because, in fact, those 3 days I designed were a perfect answer to your question. What do I need to know? Well, what you need to do is you need to go out there and understand, in my opinion, 3 things. More importantly, maybe 2 of the 3 that we taught. We spent a day on each, which is certainly not enough, but it gave you a taste. Business acumen. What does business really mean? What's going on? How does the business run? What are the key elements to the business? What makes it happen? Leadership in today's environment. What are leaders really thinking? What is the mindset? So a day on interviewing, or maybe some video clips from senior leaders today, answering the questions. So what keeps you up at night? When you wake up in the morning, what's on your mind? That's what I want you to know. So I want you to learn. If it's not a course, I want you to go out and interview people. I want you to read. And I want you to not read about someone's life history because they're great leaders. I want you to read about how they work and what they think. So leadership in today's environment, what business acumen, what is the business? And then here comes the big one: strategy, strategic thinking, strategic planning, or strategy and strategic planning, I should say, and strategy execution. The thought process, the creation of the plan. And in fact, I have a book called 7 Elements of Strategy Execution. I think it's like project management on steroids. We need to understand what strategy is all about and how to execute strategy, because guess what? Here comes the bridge to the work we do. We execute strategy. Let's go buy one of the major banks in Canada or trust company, and let's make a change on how our revenue is calculated and how well we do at the customer level, because that's why it was. And it'll happen because of all this work going on. So what I would suggest is you get out of the project management weeds once in a while and learn about how the business ticks, how it works. Interview senior leaders. Don't say, tell me about your career. Ask them what they're thinking about yesterday. Ask them what they're thinking about today. Ask them where are their pains? And every one of them will tell you. They won't sugarcoat it. If anyone says, I have no pains, it's a breeze, they're lying. What keeps you up at night? It's a great question. Whenever I do a panel discussion at a project management conference, I bring senior leaders in, not project leaders. I don't want to hear from the PMO director. I want to hear from the CEO. And I want to ask her, what keeps you up at night? And the smile on their faces when they hear the question, because they're going to be brutally honest. And what I want the audience to hear is, it's got nothing to do with project management. Nothing to do with project management. So get those interviews going at your local conference. Get your PMI chapter or your chapter of your local project association to bring.
There's a thought I want to, I don't know, get your thoughts on this. With change practitioners communicating with the CxO, many project teams, if you move around and you work in different organizations, you end up rolling up, reporting into different individuals or different roles within the C-suite. So sometimes a change practitioner 1 year is rolling up into the technology division. The next year, same job rolls up into the operations division. The year after, you're rolling up to the business division. So project managers do get moved around a bit. I just want to get your thoughts on that. Is that something that challenges project managers as well, in terms of how do they communicate with the C-suite when they don't have a natural line to the C-suite? How can they deal with that?
I think that when it comes to great communicating and communicating to a senior level, honesty is the best policy. And the first thing you'd have to avoid, the worst thing you would need to do is to try to bluff your way through anything. So as you move around the business, when you come to those spots where you're not quite sure what you're talking about, you have to be quite honest. And senior people have all been there. The executive team has all been where you've been. And if they think that you should be as smart as them or as experienced or as knowledgeable as them, they're wrong. I mean, that's just silliness. And you won't find that very often. They're human beings. And 10 years ago, they were exactly where you were, and they remember. And I would suggest that any project manager that is now having to move from areas to areas, different silos or different project teams, different executive teams, they just simply need to be quite honest and sincere about what they know and what they don't know. And the better prepared they are, of course, but no bluffing, just honesty. And sure. That's all I would say about that.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. As in, honesty is the best policy, and be straight. And people appreciate honesty, especially particularly C-suite. You don't have a lot of time to be trying to figure out what is true, what is right, or what is wrong. Just straight to the point. This is where we are. Like the example you gave, we've got a challenge. Things are getting scary, like you said, but hopefully we'll provide a clearer update in a month or a few weeks from now, and you move on from there.
Doing your research is a good thing, and doing your research before, as you speak to this person, is also a fair thing to say. To find their assistant and say, I need the following pieces of information before I meet with this team, or even just getting to the meeting, and the person says, so give me the update. Where are we at? And you're not so sure. Ideally, you want to put yourself in his or her shoes and say, what do they really need to know? And you haven't figured that out yet. You get two choices. You can ask what they want to know, or you can take a guess and give them the 20-minute version and find out afterwards they really only wanted the 2-minute version. Or you could kick into the 20 and find out that they really, really want to know the 1-hour version of where we're at. You could go on and talk for the whole thing and not realize they had 20 questions because they really know your business really well, and they used to be a project resource. And so they were more fascinated about what's going on in the deep weeds than you realized. You assumed. What I'm getting at is ask them, how much do you want? How much time do you have? How much detail do you want me to go to? Do you want time for Q&A? Wow. No one's ever asked me that before. Thank you. All right, 20 minutes. I want you to keep it high for 10, and then I'm going to talk to you for 10. And that'll probably be enough. You get huge marks for that approach, for being very honest and right up front. What's the agenda? What do you really want to know, and how do you want it? I use the example of meeting the new CIO in the elevator, and you talk about the elevator pitch. And she says, "So, how's that project XYZ you worked on?" I'm Canadian. I say XYZ, and she says, "And you've got 7 floors to give her the information." And everyone assumes she just wants the Reader's Digest version, cover story only, the elevator pitch, and that's probably what you do. But I think you also say, listen, was that enough, or would you like me to follow up with more detail? Because you assume all she had time for was 7 floors in an elevator. If she calls you into the office and says, what's up with the project XYZ? That's when you say, how much time do you have? Because I can give you the 2-hour version, I can give you the 2-minute version, or I can give you the 20-minute version.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I like the way you've literally humanized the C-suites. Explain that they're people, they've been where you are, and you deal with, they have fears, there are things that keep them up at night. So I think the way you've provided it is a brilliant bridge, humanizing the C-suite and showing how change practitioners, project managers can effectively communicate with the C-suite. Just in closing, I think we've covered a lot here, but just in interest of time, just in closing, could you share a little bit about yourself? What are you doing now? Anything interesting you're doing? And obviously, how can our audience reach out and contact you?
Thank you for asking. I really appreciate it. I have my new little startup, almost a year old, or just over a year old. It's called projectbytes.com, BITES.com. And Project Bytes is a site that has taken all of my assets and created a new way to learn and get inspired, to be educated and inspired as a project management resource. Or what I'm really realizing these days is a non-project resource as well. So we are a platform of 20-minute units of education and inspiration. 20 minutes of videos, podcasts like this one, brilliant. Live events every month, 20-minute speakers, 2 of them for an hour. And now even short courses where we have 20-minute videos spliced together with a quiz in the middle and a certificate in the end. So Project Bytes is my new baby, and we're growing now. So the project management community, but now looking at a lot of non-project communities that love our content, because it's decision-making 101, it's leadership, it's everything that project managers need to know. But guess what? A whole bunch of other people need to know it as well. So lots of fun.
Brilliant. No, brilliant. What I'll do is I'll put the links to Project Bytes and I think to your LinkedIn profile as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to it, you will find it in the description section. David, it's been a brilliant conversation. Definitely will be keeping in touch, continue to speak with you as we all learn to improve our ability to speak succinctly with the C-suite. Thanks for your time, David.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Would you like to learn more about speaking the CxO language? Would you like to join in the conversation on how to connect succinctly with the C-suite? Connect with a community of like-minded leaders on our website, thechangelead.com. When you visit our site, click Join to join the community. Check out the show notes for details on how you can contact today's guest, David. Also, as always, please don't forget to like, comment, review, and subscribe. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great week and see you next time.